Hello, and welcome to the Cultivating Confidence podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Grams. I am a life coach who specializes in anxiety, health, and human design. And I also happen to be a functional medicine pharmacist. This podcast is a compilation of conversations that I've had with clients and colleagues. So listen in as we explore the mind, body, and soul's confidence in its many forms. All right, if you are able to take a breath with me, take a couple of breaths. I'm going to take us through the normal mini meditation. So just give your mind a break for a second. Take a breath, close your eyes if you feel comfortable. If you're listening to this later and you're driving, please don't close your eyes, but relax as much as you can. Take a breath. Let it go. Feel the earth, the chair, the bed, wherever you're sitting, push back up against you, supporting you. Know that you are safe in this moment. Bring your awareness to that chair again and focus on the parts of your body that are touching it. Let them feel heavy. Sit here for a couple of breaths. You are home. You're safe. You're supported. Feel the air in your lungs. Feel that sensation. Breathe it into another area of your body. All right, one more breath. Let it go. And when you're ready, blink your eyes back open and come join us. All right, a couple of reminders for those of you who are here live. We are in focus mode, so I can see you, but you can't see each other. So I would like to encourage you all to leave your camera on. It helps me feel connected with you. Just a reminder, I will be recording the first part of this that I will present, and then I will shut off the recording in order to take some Q&A and maybe do some coaching, expand on the topics. So there is an incentive to be here live whenever possible. All right, let's dive into motivation and why it doesn't just happen to you like you want it to. This topic was once again a request from one of the members, so thank you. Keep them coming. There is a little button on the email that I send out with the link that you can submit information or requests or coaching stuff. But yeah, motivation is one of the most frustrating things that I personally have to deal with, and something that I have also helped many clients deal with. So we all have things that we want to accomplish and do in our lives, and no matter what we do, it's so hard to find the motivation for it. Whether it's changing your diet in some way or exercising more, meditating, doing something consistently, studying for an upcoming certification. I mean, the list can go on for forever. So let's talk about why that is and why we can't find the motivation. All of the above. Yes. Chloe, you're sending that to me directly. I don't know if you know that, but yes, she says all of the above. Yes. All right. So I'm going to dive into the neuroscience a tiny bit. It's not going to be an overwhelming amount. We're not going to talk about, neurochemicals or any of that, but it's going to be hopefully enough to explain what's going on. In the brain, there are different layers, different sections, different areas. I don't know. And the ones that we're mainly dealing with here are called the amygdala, which is known as the primitive brain, the toddler brain. Some people call it the lizard brain. I tend towards toddlers because it's more funny sometimes. But there's also the prefrontal cortex, which is the adult brain, the rational brain, the thinking brain. So the amygdala is where the fight or flight response happens, and it's where our emotional reactions take place, the immediate, quick emotional reactions. It's the part of our brain that wants us to stay safe always. That's its job, is to keep us safe. And there is the concept known as the motivational triad. And this is what brain and amygdala want us to do. First part of the triad, we want to avoid discomfort, because historically, evolutionarily speaking, discomfort means that you are in danger, and it means that you're hurt or excluded from the group, or, in physical danger of some sort. And all of these mean that you could be eaten or killed at any moment, right? Back to tribal evolution, right? Second point is we want to conserve energy. Because we evolved to essentially be hunter-gatherers, every step you take that's not necessary puts you one step closer to not having enough food to survive. So conserving energy, very important for survival, according to our genes. Seeking pleasure is the third and final part of the triad. So this is in nature. Things like sugar come packaged in beautiful little things we call berries that are also very nutrient dense and good for you. And they're not available very frequently, so brain is always looking for them so we don't miss them. Pleasure can also be sex. We are genetically engineered to reproduce because sex feels good. But in short, the triad is avoiding discomfort, conserving energy, and seeking pleasure. And you can see how that might be a problem in today's day and age with, how our brain is wired to respond and, what we're actually able to do in modern society. So the amygdala wants us to stay in those guidelines, in comfort, conserving energy, seeking pleasure for the best chance at survival. And its literal job is to freak out whenever you're uncomfortable, whenever you're expending too much energy, or when you're not getting that dopamine hit from pleasurable things. It also tells the body to release stress hormones when you're not in that triad. And that changes the physiology of our body to make it easier for us to run away. It encourages us to avoid the thing that is causing the discomfort, right? It causes physical symptoms like heart rate going up, blood pressure going up, muscles tensing, you start sweating, you have more endurance temporarily, so you can run away a lot easier from whatever it is that's going to eat you. And fortunately, we don't have many things that are trying to kill and eat us anymore, right? It's just a psychological threat. The amygdala doesn't know the difference between that psychological threat and the physical threat. It just thinks everything is a threat. It's an alarm, right? And there's a theory out there that because our set point for physical danger is so far off from from how we evolved, that the brain just keeps looking for smaller and smaller threats, and then it reacts the same way as if they were big ones. So the amygdala in general is just looking for things to be scared about. And when you focus on those things and reinforce it, it has actually been shown to grow bigger while your prefrontal cortex shrinks, grows smaller, right? It's the parts of our brains that we use the most that take up the most energy and grow, right? So if we're constantly giving into this instinctual response of this is dangerous, I need to hide, I need to fight, I need to freeze, that's the part of the brain that's going to take over, basically. And it wants us to avoid all the things that cause the bad feelings. It doesn't know how to respond calmly to things. That's our prefrontal cortex. It just reacts. So when we start feeling a little anxious, the amygdala tells us to avoid the thing as if it were a threat. And it makes sense that if you're trying to do something that causes you to feel some level of discomfort, your brain will tell you to move away from it. It doesn't want to change. It doesn't like the discomfort, right? So basically, we're saying all these positive changes that you want to make in your life are uncomfortable. And what your brain says, what your amygdala says is, listen, like I have the solution to avoiding this very real threat right now. I will keep you safe if you listen to me. You need to listen to me. The answer is TikTok or Netflix or gambling or shopping or sex or anything else, right? This is the answer for feeling good right in this moment. And then you tend to go along with it because it feels better than experiencing what the brain thinks is literally going to kill you, right? But why does brain think it's going to kill you? When you see a real tiger in the wild, your eyes don't give the signal to your body that there's danger, right? Your eyes send a signal to your amygdala, which is the first filter, And then the amygdala makes meaning of that signal, right? Basically, you have a very, very fast instinctual thought about it, but even if it's not like, if it's not a constant, or like not constant, conscious, if it's not a conscious thought, your brain has been trained to see tiger equals, feel bad, be scared, run away, right? Tiger, bad, give bad feeling, hide, right? So when you're doing something that has you thinking thoughts that make you feel bad feelings, brain knows that this is bad. It wants you to bail hard. But it's not the thing itself necessarily. It's the thought that's causing it, right? If we have only seen tigers behind glass or in pictures, when we see one in the wild, we might not have the same response if we haven't had similar things, right? Like if we haven't had the threat of a wild animal, right? Like it's a learned thing. And it's a very quickly learned thing. So anyway, everything we do is in order to feel a certain way or avoid feeling a certain way. And this is what we are motivated by. We either want to feel something good or we want to avoid feeling something bad, typically, right? And that, I lost my spot here. But yeah, that's just how brain acts. It wants to feel good or it wants to avoid pain, right? And literally everything you do falls into this category. And not many of us have been taught that because we haven't examined our mind enough. We haven't done enough research to understand that that's really what's motivating us to do things or not do things. It's literally feelings that are fueling your actions. So let's talk about motivation. What is motivation actually, right? It's the desire to act in service of a goal. That's the definition that I found when I Googled it. So the desire to act in service of a goal. Most of us as adults have come to believe that motivation is something that just makes us feel good and makes us want to do things, right? Like we want to feel motivated in a positive way to make the changes. And that's what we're waiting for every time we want to make changes in our life. We're waiting for that moment of this feels really good, I'm going to keep going, right? But when we start, say, a new workout regimen, the thoughts that we have when we start it are, oh, this time I'm going to stick to it. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to kick some ass. This is going to be great, right? It's going to feel so good. And those of you who have ever worked out ever know that approximately a week in, we're like, all right, this is actually hard. I'm over it. This is dumb. I'm sore. I can't move, right? This isn't worth it anymore. And this is where our thoughts completely change. And that is what causes our motivation to wane, right? Just notice that the first time this is going to be great. I'm going to feel awesome. Those are our thoughts that are running through our brain. That's what makes us feel that good, motivated energy. But then when it's like, oh, this is over, like I'm over it, not into it anymore, like that's when the dread kicks in. And notice that, again, it's just the thoughts that cause the feeling to change. But motivation is just the desire to act in service of the goal. It's not always a happy little feeling in your body. So for example, when I walk across the street, I am very motivated to get out of the way of oncoming traffic when I'm crossing the road, right? Because I don't want to be run over. That is more of a fear-based motivation, and it is very effective at getting me to take action. So fear-based is also a way to feel motivated, right? A lot of us kind of use that and take it to the next level with self-criticism based motivation or shame-based motivation. So this is something that I think everyone in this room, we're all very familiar with, right? We look in the mirror and we think, oh, you're too fat. You look at the nutrition you're having and you think, oh, you're not doing well enough. We're not succeeding compared to everybody else. We compare ourselves to everyone we see and it just feels shitty, right? And then we shame ourselves into making change. And shame is something that brain for sure wants to avoid, that we talked about a little bit last time when we were talking about guilt versus shame. But this is now shame-based motivation, right? So it's it's the lowest vibration energy that we can experience, and brain knows this is bad. This is going to keep us, excluded from the group. We're going to get eaten. This is terrible, right? We need to avoid this. So we motivate ourselves to make this change, and it's very effective in the short term. It can get you started moving because it feels so terrible. But the problem is that shame is a terrible fuel source for long-term motivation and action, right? When we use it to fuel our actions, it gets us moving, and then it steps in a different form to get us to hide, to get us to stop making progress, to get us to stay safe in our own little bubble. Or we think that reaching a goal will cause our feelings to magically change when we get there. So when we reach the goal, then we're going to feel amazing, right? So for example, if you're losing weight based on how terrible you think you look, and when you see yourself in the mirror, your thoughts are something along the lines of, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're so fat. You can't do anything right. You better go get on the treadmill, right? And then the second you hit your weight goal, you'll celebrate for 5 minutes, and then your brain will take over with thoughts of, oh, you better not mess this up. You've been here before and you gained it all back. You better keep starving yourself. Oh my God, the scale says this number, but look at all your saggy skin, right? Like those thoughts just shift to a new filter, right? The self-criticism and the shame thoughts will stay if that's what's been fueling the action the whole time, if you don't learn to treat yourself with kindness. And that's why most weight loss plans fail. And that's why people end up with 3 PhDs and 6 board certifications and still feel shitty about themselves, right? I need another certification. I need another training. I need in order to feel worthy of being there, right? And the same concept applies to everything, right? The negative talk for the certification might be something like, hey, you don't know enough about this. You better get this piece of paper to hide behind so nobody sees how insecure you really are and how you don't actually know what you're talking about, right? But that's when we get the certification, when we finish the course, that's where the imposter syndrome kicks in. And you get your certification, and then you go searching for another one to prove that you deserve to have a spot at this table, right? Oh, I didn't learn it well enough this time, so I need this one. And that will get me the answer. That will help me feel good, right? And if you don't train your thoughts to change, and you don't practice feeling the feels that you want as you make progress on your goal, the thoughts and the feelings will be the same when you get there. And that is why I like to teach my people that we want to use love as our motivation, or at least not shame and guilt, right? We want to shift our thoughts to be coming from a positive place, and it feels so much better, right? And at first, it kind of feels like you're not motivated to do anything because you don't have that fear-based motivation, right? You have to learn how to switch your brain to this other fuel source. But brain wants to feel good. And a lot of times, those of us who use self-criticism and shame as motivation, we need a long period of probably several months to possibly a couple of years to sit with like not having shame and criticism be what causes change for us, right? I mean, well, I don't know if I added this example in there, but for some reason I just thought of it. Like if we have a deadline for something, I don't know that it fits right here, but I'm gonna say it anyway. When we have a deadline for something, like say at work, we have a project we're doing that has a deadline somewhere in the future, right? When we start to think about the project, there could be reasons that we don't want to actually do it because it's uncomfortable. I would rather be scrolling on the internet. I would rather be, doing something else. Oh, this makes me feel discomfort to start working on the project, right? And our motivator there is, conserving energy, seeking pleasure, maybe, avoiding discomfort for sure. Like this makes me feel anxious to get started on this. I'm not sure if I know all the things I need to know to get it done. Those sorts of thoughts come in and make you feel a certain way, right? So then when the deadline approaches, so before the deadline approaches, the project itself is what's going to cause that threat for your brain. When the deadline approaches, then your thoughts shift from the project being the problem to the deadline is the problem. And someone is going to be mad at me if I don't meet this deadline. So then it shifts, right? Like I have to get this done. And then the motivation to take action is there because avoiding the discomfort of the deadline is taking action, right? So at first we're avoiding the action because we don't have that deadline. And then we're shifting our thoughts to, oh my gosh, now the deadline is what's going to eat me. So now I do it, right? And you wait until the last minute and you have that fear-based motivation to get it done, right? But then, yeah, it's training, it's retraining your brain to come from that space, even though you know that, doing the work ahead of time, planning it out, prepping, revising, all those sorts of things will actually get you a better result. And the feedback that you get at the end of the deadline will be better, right? Than if you rush through and try to, cram it all into one night instead of taking time to research and do all the things. Then you're going to get bad feedback, right? Like there's this fight that happens in our brains, right? So learning to use a different fuel source is where I'm hoping that we'll be on the path to by the end of this. So how do we start finding a different fuel source for ourselves? First, I like to suggest that you figure out why you want to do the thing in the first place. Finding your why. And the reasons don't all have to be very profound, but I encourage you to have a lot of reasons. Like make a list of at least 30 reasons if you can, and dig deeper. If you can't think of that many, ask yourself why you want one of your reasons in order to come up with another reason, right? So these reasons will be your reminders. They'll act as your reminders throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year as to why you want to achieve this goal, right? So if you want to dial in your nutrition, maybe in the morning, you might want to set a good example for your kids. You want to fuel your brain, and teach them how to fuel their brain. At noon, it might be because you want to be able to focus better at work. You want to not feel bloated and foggy after lunch and want to take a nap, right? So that's why you're going to make better choices then. And then when you get home, you want to be able to process your emotions without relying on sugar. So this is more an emotional, like, I want to feel what I want to feel, right? And then at night, before you go to bed, instead of that snack of ice cream, you might choose something different, like a protein, because at night, you want to be able to sleep through the night without your blood sugar going crazy and waking you up at 3 a.m. So you can see how they are all very, very different reasons why. So 1, being a good example for my kids. 2, not feeling bloated and foggy, like I want to feel good after I eat. 3, I don't want to rely on sugar for my emotions. And 4, like I don't want my blood sugar to go crazy and I want to sleep better at night. So there's like 5 or 6 reasons right there, all for the same goal, right? And it can be something like, oh, I want to look good in this dress that I bought for this wedding that I have in a couple of months. Like that's totally fine, right? But you just have to like your reasons. And make sure that you can feel in your body that that is a good reason for you, right? You're going to need a different reason why for every hour of the day, different days of the week. So make lots of extra reasons. Come up with more as you go if you want, right? So then the next step, imagine what you'll think and feel when the goal is accomplished, right? When you have achieved the goal. So what do you think you will feel like when the weight is lost, right? What do you think you'll feel like when you get that certification with your name printed in the shiny black ink? What are the emotions that come up in your body if you picture yourself after having achieved this future goal, right? Write all those down too. Maybe it's proud, accomplished, confident, successful. And what I want to invite you to consider is using those as your fuel to get there, not as the reward once you get there, right? The more you practice feeling those feelings now, the easier it will be to feel that when you get there, right? You want to use them as literal fuel to take action, right? So instead of, oh my gosh, I never stick to my plan, like, I'm so proud of myself for sticking to my plan today. Look at all the progress I've made. I feel amazing and I love how I can move my body now, right? And you can literally use that to start replacing thoughts in your head, the self criticism thoughts, right? Think about how you would encourage a child to achieve a goal, because your inner child, I guarantee, needs to hear those things from you. Your inner child needs to hear, look at all the progress you've made. I'm so proud of you, for yourself. And that, as a fuel, is how you maintain the change, is how you create a life that you want to live, right? And then the final thing before you start is to find neutral or even positive, but mostly neutral is where neutral is a big goal for some people before you start, right? Make sure that you're setting a goal that you actually want. Make sure you have clean thoughts around it. So for the weight loss example, it might look like learning to accept your body and yourself exactly as you are, coming to neutral about how your body looks, or taking it even further into loving your body, but that might be too much of a stretch for some people, right? Go to, I have a human stomach, I have a human leg, I have a human body. And this is how many pounds I weigh. And if you can feel things that are negative, maybe take a step back, right? People have stomachs, and I also have one, right? Use bridge thoughts to get from the place of shaming yourself into whatever change you want to make. Get closer to loving yourself, right? A lot of people think that if you love yourself and accept yourself exactly as you are, you won't change. And I think that it's the opposite. I think when you love yourself exactly as you are not required to change. You just make the change because you want to, for reasons that you like. I know I talk a lot about making sure that you like your reasons, and this is another example, right? You have to be radically honest with yourself and decide that you like your reasons. And if you're making changes based on what other people think of you, or what other people think in general, and you're trying to control their thoughts and make them think good things about you, from my perspective, that's not a reason that I like. That's people pleasing. That's manipulative. That's trying to control everybody else and how they feel. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be controlled about how I feel. I want to feel what I feel, right? I don't want people to tiptoe around me or lose weight because they think that I will think better of them, right? No. I don't want you to get a certification so I think better of you. No. Right? But yeah, make sure that you like your reasons. And I want you to lose weight from reasons that you like, not reasons that you want to run away from. I want you to get certified because you are already confident, and this is just a way to enhance your capabilities and help more people, right? And just notice that the actions can be, and the results can be the same, but it comes from a very different place and it makes them more sustainable, right? You're still going to get the certification, you're still going to lose the weight, but how do you want to feel along the way? And how do you want to feel when you get there? How do you want to look back and have treated yourself along the way? And I know before I started my healing journey, there was not much that I looked back on and was proud of myself for how I handled myself in the process. I beat myself up all the way through pharmacy school. Self-criticism as motivation over and over and over again for years, right? I know I'm not the only one. But keep in mind, making the shift takes a lot of effort. It takes us away from our default thinking that we have been thinking for decades, most of us, right? It makes us veer off from that eight-lane highway. It makes us get the machetes out and take a trek through the jungle, right? It's hard work. It requires us to move away from that motivational triad of avoiding discomfort and conserving energy and seeking pleasure. And it forces us to move into a growth triad, which is the exact opposite, where we choose discomfort because we know that that's how we're going to make lasting change in our life. We expend our energy, because, especially mental energy, because we are literally rewiring our brains so that we have different default thoughts, and also physical energy, moving our bodies a lot of the times, right? And then the third piece of that one is delaying gratification, because we know that those temporary dopamine spikes are not helping us. So we choose not to participate, right? Because we know that delaying this feel good moment is going to help us achieve our goals. And none of these things feel good most of the time. We have to choose to do them in order to act in service of our goal, which is the definition of motivation, right? So making the conscious decision to change your thoughts, change your fuel, changes your behavior and changes your results. All right. I'm going to shut off the recording here, and then we can chat.
Thank you for taking the time to listen in today. Many of you will be able to take the ideas that you've heard and apply them in your daily life, and that's really all you need. That's amazing. But for those of you who could use a little one-on-one help with how to make these things actually work for you in your real life, please reach out. The link to schedule a consult with me is in the show notes. You don't have to do this alone. See you soon.